everyone, it is me, Sammy, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here, guys. It's so lovely to have you here, and I hope you're all having an amazing day. Before we jump into the video, don't forget to hit this thumbs up button, subscribe down below, and go and follow me over on Instagram. My link is down in the description box below. As you've probably read from the title, guys, this video is going to be me talking about British slang for food. Now, we use a lot of slang, and for those that aren't British, a lot of it can be really confusing. I get quite confused by some like American slang and things like that, so I know like different countries have different ways of talking, it's just how it is. But I thought I would break down some of our slang for you, and I thought I would turn this into sort of a mini series on my channel. So I'm going to do loads of different categories and loads of different videos on British slang. But the first one is food, because I'm a huge foodie, as you probably know from watching this channel. I talk a lot about food and I love food so much, and we have some crazy slang for food and everything to do with food, hunger, thirst, meal names and things like that. So there's a lot of slang to get through, so let's just jump straight into the video. I'm going to be using my iPad to show you guys how things are spelled, or how I would personally spell things. Obviously different people would spell slang in different ways or abbreviate it in certain ways. So this is personally how I would spell it if I was writing it in a sentence or something. The first word I'm going to explain to you guys is one that you've probably heard me say quite a lot, and I know quite a few people have different versions of this, and that is the word pucker. For me, and I know quite a few Brits in particular, use this word to mean excellent. So if we say like that food is pucker, it just means excellent. Or you can say like that guy's t-shirt is pucker, or I don't know, just anything. But in particular I use this when I'm talking about food, because you know when you just take that mouthful of food and it's super tasty, it's oh, pucker. The next one that a lot of people get confused about is crisps. Now, our crisps are what most people call chips, potato chips. So things like Lay's, that's what we call crisps. Or I don't know what other kind of things, but that kind of snack, like that's what we call crisps. So yeah, I might have to do a video of like the best British crisps in my opinion, or something like top 20 crisps or something like that, just so you guys can see our variety of crisps, or what we call crisps. But yeah, that is what basically it is. It's just like Lay's, like potato chips is what we call crisps. And then just to make it a little bit more complicated, we also have chips, but for us this is what we call French fries. Like we call French fries, and also like thick French fries is what we call chips. So yeah, just to confuse you all a little bit more, chips. Now, a really popular British meal has to be bangers and mash. Now this is probably going to confuse a lot of you that aren't British, but mash is what we call mashed potato. So boil up some potatoes, mash them, mix them with some butter or milk, salt and pepper, however you want to do it. That is what we call mash. It's basically just mashed potato. And bangers are sausages. So a famous meal that we have here is sausages and mashed potato, or in our words, bangers and mash. Another thing that the British have to be famous for has to be fish and chips. So that's another word for basically like battered fish, deep fried, served with chips, which aren't your crisps, they're thick French fries. I think that explains it pretty well. And then of course you can't have fish and chips without the chippy. The chippy is basically another name for the fish and chip shop where you go and you buy your fish and chips. A massively famous thing that you can buy in a chippy, which is traditionally British, like I don't know any other place that does this, and that is a chip butty, or a chip balm if you're up in Blackpool, which I recently figured out. Like all over the UK they'll have a different word for this, but a chip butty or a chip balm is like two variations of it, is basically a bread roll cut in half, buttered, and then chips inside. Close it up, eat it like a sandwich kind of thing. Yeah, it's basically like a French fry sandwich or a chip butty. Now, we love our sandwiches here in Britain, but none is more prominent than the bacon sarnies. The bacon sarnie is a sandwich, but with a healthy, generous amount of cooked bacon inside. It can be grilled, it can be fried, however you want to cook it, but bacon in a sandwich, bacon sarnie. Perfect. Now, the perfect accompaniment to a bacon sarnie, in my opinion, is a lovely cup of tea. Now, of course, we have our traditional cup of tea way of saying cup of tea, but we also have a few variations of how to say it, and I'm sure there will be a lot more than this, but just a few of my favourite are a brew. So, you fancy a brew? That means, would you like a cup of tea? Also, a cuppa. That's another one of my favourites. If you say, you want a cuppa? Normally means, would you like a cup of tea? Or, do you fancy a cuppa? Fancy a cup of tea? Now, not only do we have different ways of saying cup of tea, we also have slang for how the tea is made, or variations of the tea. So a traditional tea is made with like the tea bag, you know, and you put it in hot water, milk. However, different people say, how many sugars do you want? Do you take milk in it? Like, there's different ways of making it. One variation in particular of tea, which is very, very popular here in Britain, is the builder's cup of tea. Now, a builder's cup of tea consists of 2 sugars, milk, and leaving the tea bag in a little longer than usual, just so it's a little bit stronger. And yeah, that is known as a builder's cup of tea. Now, where better to get your bacon sarnie and your builder's tea than at the cafe? The cafe is just another way of saying a cafe. It's still 4 letters, it's not really any shorter, it's just our slangy way of saying, oh, you fancy going down the cafe for breakfast? Or you could say, fancy going down the cafe for brekkie? Brekkie is another word for breakfast. We have so many different ways of saying the different meals of our day, but brekkie is just a slangy way of saying breakfast. Another mealtime word can be starter. It's like another word for an appetizer. Most places, I think, would know what a starter is, but just in case you didn't, a starter in British slang is like an appetizer, like before your main course. So we had starters, now it's time for afters. I think we simplified mealtime words so much, like start is at the start of your meal, afters is at the after your meal. So afters is another word for dessert, basically. Now, another word that we use for dessert is also pudding. That's what we say, oh, what's for pudding, mum? Like, what's for dessert? Pudding is another word for dessert, but it also means like a soft, spongy type of dessert with like a sauce. It can be like, there's various different puddings that you can get to have for pudding, but pudding is also another word for what we call dessert. Now, a famous pudding in particular here in Britain has a very funny, slangy name, and it's called Spotted Dick. And no, it's not a medical complaint, it's actually a suet pudding. And suet is a fairly dry white beef fat, and it's used as a base in a lot of puddings, and it can be turned into something sweet or something savoury. But yeah, it's a suet pudding with sultanas or currants or dried fruit. And yeah, it's perfect in the winter, warm with some custard. Pucker. For our final mealtime reference, I'll refer back to our famous cup of tea, and tea is another word that we use for dinner. So sometimes they'll say like, oh, your tea's in the oven, get ready for tea. But yeah, tea can also mean a dinner here, so yeah, we like to confuse things, don't we? Another UK slang for food that I love is pub grub. Now, grub is just another word for food, and obviously pub is a public house where they sell alcohol and things, and pub grub is just food that you can get in a pub. Now, while you are in the pub, you may fancy a bevy. A bevy is basically slang for a beverage. It's just short for a beverage. So fancy a bevy basically means do you fancy a drink? So yeah, bevy. Now, while you're at the pub, you may want to order a pint. A pint can be beer, cider, anything that they'll sell in like a pint quantity. So yeah, fancy a pint normally means beer or cider. Not many people go and order a pint of water. So yeah, pint is like a pint of beer or a pint of cider. Now, what you might not want to order is some cheap plonk. Plonk refers to wine, and obviously because it's cheap plonk, that normally means it's probably under about £3 for the bottle, and as the name cheap plonk suggests, it's not only cheap, but it probably tastes nasty as well. Another one of my favourite British slangs for food is a Ruby Murray. Now, a Ruby Murray is Cockney rhyming slang, so in London we have Cockney rhyming slang, which is where phrases that rhyme with a certain word, it deserves its whole own video. So I definitely will be doing a Cockney rhyming slang video all on its own. But Ruby Murray is a British singer in the 1950s, and the Cockney rhyming slang for Ruby Murray is a curry. So if you fancy a Ruby Murray, it means you fancy a curry. Or sometimes the rhyming word is dropped, so I had a well nice Ruby last night means I had a really nice curry last night. So yeah, but Cockney rhyming slang definitely needs its whole own video for an explanation. Another sort of British word is mince, and mince is another word for sort of ground up meat. So in the US they call it ground meat, in India they call it keema. Yeah, it basically means like minced up meat, so we call it mince. I love this one. Spuds is another word for a potato. Now, a very, 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 very traditional British summertime treat is a 99. Now, this sounds so absurd, but if you go to like an ice cream truck or an ice cream shop and ask for a 99, you will receive a cone with some soft serve ice cream and a chocolate flake, like a crumbly chocolate stick, in it as well, and that is what's known as a 99. And I actually remember when a 99 was actually 99 pence. Like, it actually cost 99 pence. Now they're like £3.99. It's crazy. But yeah, if you go to any ice cream shop or ice cream van and ask for a 99, you will get a cone and the ice cream and a flake. Another one of my favourite dinners has to be a jacket potato. Now, this might sound crazy, but it's basically a baked potato. That's what they call it in the US. A jacket potato is basically a potato that's been baked in its skin, and the skin is its jacket, sort of thing, if you get what I mean. Like, yeah, so it's a jacket potato. One of my favourite breakfasts of all time has to be egg and soldiers. Now, this would probably confuse so many people. Soldiers are basically a finger-sized slice of toasted bread, and we have it on the side of like a soft-boiled egg, and we dip the soldiers into the egg and eat it. It's super tasty. Yeah, definitely look this up because It's so tasty. A Yorkshire pudding definitely has to be mine and Ron's favourite food. I might actually link a picture up here if I can, because Yorkshire puddings are really unique, and if you haven't seen them before, it's very hard to explain, but it's basically a light batter that rises when it's cooked, and you can have it on the side of like your roast dinner, or like with roasted meats and vegetables, and you can have it with gravy and things like that. So yeah, I was in India and I basically tried a puri for the first time, and I said that the Yorkshire pudding was like a British puri, or like the puri is like an Indian Yorkshire pudding. That's basically how I explained it. Now, a toad in the hole is amazing. A toad in the hole is basically a Yorkshire pudding, but it's had sausages cooked into the middle of it. I know, right? Mind blown. Sausages, Yorkshire puddings, bit of gravy. Oh, you can't get any better than that, honestly. Pucker. Now that I've covered quite a few food names and things, I really want to just talk about words that you can use to describe food or describe how you feel about food. So for example, if you're hungry, there's a few ways that you can say that. One of them is Hank Marvin. So if you are Hank Marvin, it means that you, sir, are starving. And you can also say that you are peckish. Now, if you're peckish, it means that you're a little bit hungry. Like, I'm feeling a little bit peckish. I could sort of peck and nip at little bits of food. Like, if you're peckish, you're a little bit hungry, but you're not fully Hank Marvin yet. Now, we have a few different words to say food as well. So you can say you want to get some munch. If you want to get some food, you can say, oh, I really fancy getting some munch. Or you can say you'd really like to grab some nosh, is another word of saying food as well. And last but not least, my final word in this British slang for food video is nosh up. And nosh up basically means to have a feast. So if you're going for a nosh up, you are going to eat, my friend. And that is the end of this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. This was so much fun to do, and I really enjoyed researching and finding all the different slang and trying to figure out which ones you guys would like to hear the most about. I tried to find the most interesting ones, if I'm honest, and the ones that are probably used the most. So yeah, definitely loved doing this video for you guys. If you would like any more categories, whatever kind of British slang you would like to learn, leave it down in the comments down below and I will definitely make a video. This is going to turn into like a little mini series. I think next will probably be the Cockney rhyming slang. Unless you guys really want something else, just let me know down in the comments down below. Super excited to read through them and see what kind of slang you guys would like to learn. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe down below, go follow me over on Instagram, and as always guys, I hope you take care and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care. Bye!